Let's put it in perspective and have a look at the groups, because it is a tough group for Australia, Group 1. Have a look at that, Skull. I mean, you've got Australia, Bangladesh, England, South Africa, Sri Lanka get in there and qualify, and the West Indies as well.
It's a group of death, guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Australia did not want Bangladesh and Sri Lanka to get through those qualifying stages, but they did in the order that they didn't want. A far easier group. Group 2 with Namibia and Scotland. There's 2 wins for the powerful side. So Australia, there's not an easy game in their group.
Well, that's it, June. You can't afford to drop early games in this tournament.
No, you can't, particularly the way the groups have panned out. So you're right, you want to hit the ground running, you want some form early on, particularly some of the Australian batsmen we've spoken about. They want some confidence early in this tournament. If you happen to lose your first 2 games, you're pretty much going to be struggling, so you've got to hit the ground running against South Africa.
Let's get into some predictions, boys, brought to you by Jacobs Creek. Skull, I'll come straight to you straight away. Who do you think is going to get into the finals of the T20 World Cup?
Look, I've gone India-Pakistan from the other group, because I just feel India, they're raging favourites. They've got form on the tracks, form over the distance. Their top 3, Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, maybe Ishan Kishan, Virat Kohli. They've got the best T20 fast bowler in the world, Jasprit Bumrah. They've got so many bases covered. MS Dhoni, a noted winner, is mentoring them. They're legitimately the strongest favourite in some time to win this. I've got them against Pakistan, a dangerous team. I know they'll either win their group or finish last. I'm backing them to try to go close to winning it. Well, they've got a top 3 that's much vaunted. Babar Azam, who could be the leading run getter in the competition, Mohammad Rizwan, and Fakhar Zaman at 3. Plus, they've got Shaheen Shah Afridi, the best power play fast bowler in World T20 cricket. So really, and Imad Wazim, who's a left-arm spinner who keeps it very tight at the top. I love Shaheen Shah Afridi early. He can put teams away. I think he's a big player in this. He can get them all the way to the playoffs.
Oh, look at the rankings, June. You've got England number 1, India number 2, and Pakistan number 3.
Yeah.
So is there much in it?
Well, I'm against Skull. I haven't got Pakistan in the frame at all. I don't think they feel well enough. I think their running between wickets is probably not good enough. I think their batting lacks a bit of depth, but Skull's a good judge, so I'll go with him there. But I'm Australia, India in the final, but I also think New Zealand and England, they're the top 4 teams. I don't think any side out of that can win it. I think those 4 are the main sides. I'm sort of thinking, I'm more hoping with Australia, but I think they've got a really good side. If they start off well, they can threaten. New Zealand are always hard to beat. They've got a good side. They've got plenty of power hitters. They've got Kane Williamson, who's great under pressure. And England, they've got batsmen that can hit the ball out of the park. Your Jason Roys, Bairstow, these sorts of guys. They've got good bowling as well. So they're the 4 main teams, but I'm hoping Australia, India get through. Talking about the batting order, I noticed that you haven't got Steve Smith in your team. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that Steve Smith's a class player, and I probably think he's the best test batsman in the world. He's got a huge role to play in 50 over too. But in T20, I don't think he's really sort of nailed T20. And I think if Australia want to, I think we're ranked number 7 in T20 cricket in the world. So we haven't really performed with that sort of side we've had. So I think when we've got guys like Stoinis, we've got Mitchell Marsh, we've got Maxwell, and I think Josh Inglis should play. I saw Josh Inglis firsthand in the London Spirit this year, and he is fantastic. He's an outstanding young cricketer, and I reckon he's got a lot to prove. So they're sort of my 4 batsmen. I like Stoinis at the top. I think he can hit, but once he gets in, he can hit, and we've seen that. Mitchell Marsh, to me, should be our finisher with Inglis, and then Maxwell sort of sits in the middle. So I think the style of play that Australia has at their disposal could be fantastic and could win the tournament. If Steve Smith plays, I still think they'll do well, but Steve Smith never really strikes more than just over a run of ball. I know he's got the capabilities that he can, but I just think we've got so many more dynamic power players that he wouldn't be my side. That's not to say he's not a great player, but I just think with the Stoinis, Marsh, Inglis, Maxwell, these guys, they should be our batters in T20.
Warne, bowling spin in the middle overs, Agar and Zampa have a heavy responsibility. What should be their mantra? Not conceding boundaries, taking wickets, dot balls. What was your overview when you bowled World Cup middle overs?
Yeah, look, middle overs are so important if you can take those wickets. So I don't really worry about the economy rate. I think it's a match awareness thing. You have to dictate what the team needs you to do right now. So in those middle overs as a spinner, yes, it's about taking wickets, but a really tight over at a crucial time is so important as well. So especially if someone's bowling well at the other end. So you've got to bowl on that partnership, but it should always be about taking wickets and not worrying about going for runs. Because if you can take those wickets in the middle overs, that means you get into that middle and lower order of the opposition. And that's when they end up saying, we just got to bat and put a total on the board, which means they only get a par score or just under par. So that means you should be able to chase it down better.
So just going off the back of that, do you think Mitch Swepson will play many games in this tournament? Because he is a wicket taker. He's probably the one guy out of those three that spins the ball the most.
Yeah, it's a good shout, June. I think Swepson will definitely come into calculations. I think they'll start. Zampa's been fantastic for Australia. We know that. So he starts. And then they weigh up conditions. I know Dan Christian is not really he's the reserve, but I'd really consider Dan Christian at number 7 instead of Agar. But if the pitches are conducive to spin, then I would have no hesitation with playing Zampa and Swepson and play 2 leggies because he does spin it, as you say, and he's a big wicket taker.
All right, mate, before we let you go quickly, who do you think's going to win this tournament? Outside of Australia, of course.
Yeah, of course, BJ. Look, I think India are a very good side. I think their bowling side is outstanding. Bumrah, to me, is just world class. He's just fantastic. I think they've got a good balanced side. England, if they get their right side and everyone starts to fire there, I think India and England have to be favourites just for their form. They've played so well in T20 cricket. So I think those two go in as favourites. But that's not even talking about New Zealand, West Indies are the reigning champions, and Australia. So it really is anyone's tournament. And in T20 cricket, we know that it only takes one player to have a day out with a bat or ball and you can win the game.